Again, it's a real pleasure to welcome you all to the B.B. Comer Library and especially to the Sylacauga Magical Marble Festival. This is our 14th year, and I know that the Ollie's group has been coming for a number of years. Peggy, how many years? This third? Okay, so welcome back. If you've been here before, we're delighted to have you. And if you'll put this on your calendar, next April the 11th will be our kickoff time next year. I think it's the 11th through the 23rd of April. So in case you were asking why is it a week later, we have to dodge Easter one way or the other. And Easter is on the April the 9th, and I'm not going to compete with that. I promise you. We just we'll move down just a bit. Uh, as I said, this is our 14th festival, and we've had some exciting people and sculptures that came through here. Each year we have a visiting sculptor from Italy. Last year we had an American sculptor to come in, and his name was Bill Cook, and he did such a good job that when you all called, when Peggy called, I said, well, they need to be exposed to Bill Cook. Bill is a graduate of the University of Tennessee with a degree in theater. He's married. He has a daughter just finished college, and he's so happy about that. She's got a job already. But the bad part is he's got twins that's graduating from high school, just be starting college. So, a lot of sympathy is needed there. But that points out he's a family man. He graduated from the University of Tennessee with a degree in theater, and he's been acting ever since. And today you're going to see him at his very best. It's just really exciting. One other thing, he's a very versatile individual. In addition to being a theater graduate, he is also a former dance teacher with Arthur Murray School of Dance. So if he breaks out into song and dance at the same time, I want you to know that those are minor compared to his accomplishments in sculpting. We got pieces of his sculpture all around, and we've even had Josh Buchanan from the Tennessee Marble Company to come down and see how well Bill does, and he can work him into the program that they're going to have there in the state of Tennessee. So Josh, nice to have you with us, and we certainly want to thank all of you. But this is the Bill Cook Show from this point on. You're going to enjoy it. There'll be questions afterwards. It's a delight to have you again. So, Bill, come and wow this audience with your just special pizzazz, okay?
Thank you, Ted. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank y'all. Appreciate the time. And with that introduction, I better turn up a notch here. But as Ted said, yeah, I've been carving quite a while. I have a studio in Knoxville where I carve all kinds of marble, but Alabama marble is one of my favorites. So when this comes up on the calendar, I try to make sure and come down and we do a whatever we want with the marble, and we can make great sculptures. Sometimes they get it put into the library, and that's even better. So this time I wanted to talk a little bit about something a little different. So it may be a little bit different than what you're expecting, but it does relate to marble carving, and it does relate to three-dimensional design. And we had our Italian master had a presentation a few days ago, and he mentioned in that presentation that there are some robotic sculpting machines now that do a lot of the roughing out process for large marble pieces, and then the artist finishes up that piece. So this will kind of tie into that in a way. I wanted to just kind of talk about this because it's become quite evident that technology has kind of changed the way that we think about sculpture. So this was what I came up with the title, The Future of Three-Dimensional Design. And that can be sculpture of marble, it can be bronze, it can be whatever, but just three-dimensional design. So there are some methods that are a brand new way, in my opinion. One of my architects that I deal with in my day-to-day job told me about this program, and you can actually take in virtual reality and sculpt in three-dimensional space, and it's a program called Gravity Sketch. And we'll talk about those. There's software and headset options that are available, and the ways that you can do that. Once you design that piece in three-dimensional space, you can then take and 3D print that. There are printers now that print in 3 dimension. in plastic, in steel, in aluminum. There are lots and lots of material options that are available, and it can print any size, any shape, anything that you've designed in 3 dimensions. And what's really, what I did is I made the leap from, okay, that's great, 3-dimensional design, got a piece of plastic that's cool, or aluminum, but how do I carve it in marble from that? Now, how do I make that leap of that? So there are a couple of ways that we'll talk about. The eyeball method, okay, I kind of look at it and go, all right, eyeball method. I translate from the 3-dimensional object to the marble. Or you can get the piece that you make in 3D printing, you can get it laser scanned and then have a robotic carver carve that out and then finish that by hand. You can also use a traditional pointing machine. There's an old Italian method that you can take and transpose the dimensions from the 3D object into a bigger piece in marble and carve that out using that traditional pointing machine. So software programs, there are several available. There's a ton on the market, but the one that I've used is called Gravity Sketch. There's also one called Adobe Medium. There's one called Tilt Brush that Google makes. And these are all programs where you'll wear a virtual reality headset, and then you'll have these hand controllers. And the hand controllers are your hands in space where you're creating the object that you want to create. The virtual reality headsets, there's a bunch of these on the market, but the best that I've seen, the Oculus Quest 2, which is the one that I have, HTC Vive Pro 2 is another brand, and then Panasonic makes one. There's a bunch, but those are some different brands that are out there. Then, of course, in order to run that kind of technology, you'll need a PC or laptop that's very good graphics, a high memory card, and a very fast processor to make some of this happen. So the 3D printing that happens, you can take your file, you create a file on your computer after you've created this object in space. It's a 3D object file. You can send that off to a service. You can send that by email to CraftCloud or Xometry or Sculptor. They then take that file and print that for you in whatever dimension and whatever material you tell them you want it. And it's actually not that expensive. I looked, and to create a little object like this was maybe about $10. You can send it off, send the file and get them to print it in plastic. If you want it in aluminum or stainless steel, it costs, of course, a little bit more to do. 3/16 stainless steel or aluminum alloy, and it can be fairly affordable. It depends on size and material, just like anything. But this is kind of an example of a 3-dimensional printer. It has a little nozzle that is fed a long piece of plastic thread or aluminum thread. There's a lot of different materials. It comes through, heated up, and it prints in space, and it layers and layers and layers until it's done, and then that object is created based on the file that you've created with your virtual reality program. So then once you have that 3D object, now you're going to go, all right, I want to make this really cool thing. I've created this on my own. It is an original piece of sculpture, but it's a 3D object now. Now I want to create it in marble. So I'm going to use the eyeball method, which, that's the method I like, because that's going to give me the freedom and the ability to, if I want to make a change, I can make a change. You can use, making small refinements as you kind of progress through that. Or you can send it to a service and have it laser scanned, and then they can use this robotic carver to create that, to create this marble piece in a block. And this carver actually moves in 7 different axes. Some of these have 5, some of them have 7 different ways that they can come in. They rough it out, and then they'll come back and refine it, and then you can hand finish that from there. A lot of those the robotic carving facilities are in Italy. There are also, of course, in China as well. So it just depends on where you want to have that done if you do decide to do that. Huh? Yeah, there are some here. In fact, we have a piece in the library that was actually created, and I can't remember the name of the company here, but there's a lion. If you've seen this huge lion's head, it was created by a company locally here. So yeah, there are plenty of companies here. And I should have put that, in Italy and America. So, and then the other method is the traditional pointing machine, the macchinetta da punta, and you can do that. You can take an object. This is the model here, and he's creating it here in marble, and you take the points and you transfer that. You keep moving that back and forth, and as you refine your piece down, you process that to create it to make it look like the model that you did. So this is the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. Walt Disney said that. And so what I wanted to do is kind of take you through a live VR demonstration as I do it in the virtual headset, so you guys can see what goes on. And I'll try to do it so nobody gets seasick, because it's a little weird, and I get it. But I'm going to try to just give you a little example of how I created some stuff in space and got a three-dimensional object, and it's very quick to do. There's different ways. You could do this same thing in clay, but it's a different method of creating an object. So let's see if we can do that, okay? First things first, put some glasses on so I can see what I'm... So I actually have a little video that I went ahead and did. And this way, you can at least see how the process goes. All right, this is the program that I go into. It's called Gravity Sketch. It's a free program, by the way, if you get into this. What's not free, the headset and the high-speed computer. But once you get this, I'm going to move on up here.
Okay. Show VR view. There we go. Now we're in. Okay. So here we are, finally, in Gravity Sketch. I'm going to move this control board out of the way. What I'm going to do first is we're going to create a new sketch. So I'm going to tap on that with my controller. I get this big honking space, which is a design. It's actually a warehouse space. You can see as you look around, big open, well-lit room you can play in. And there's a 3-axis, world axis here. So you have an X, Y, and Z, so you can kind of tell where you are in space. I have it set up to do a new sketch, so I'm going to tap on, we're going to pull a Mobius stroke, just get a little stroke going here. I'm going to create a large stroke, and I'm going to tap this so I get more of the shape that I want on the stroke. So I want it to be kind of oblong, I think, more flattened out. So I put it closer down here. And I pull my trigger finger, and I create a loop-de-loop, for lack of a better term. And I come back here and I reconnect. Now I can grab that whole thing and turn it any which way I want to see, different angles, etc. If now I want to go in and edit this, I can grab the object with my right thumb and then click with my left thumb, and I get these points. And then I hit subdivision level, and now I got a lot of points to play with. I can, for instance, if I wanted to come in here and grab a few points, I blow them up. I grab them, and I can pull that area, that section out or down. I can grab just a couple if I want to make some really minor modifications. You can grab just one if you wanted to by making this purple sphere a little smaller, so it just grabs one guy. And I can really kind of stretch the edge out, for instance, if I wanted to do that. Now I'm going to grab the whole thing and flip it over and look at that. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, that's not exactly what I wanted to do, but at least you get the idea about editing. You can grab the object, flip it around. What I like to do is take the object, throw it way out in the room, and then I can push that out. Now I'm going to increase it to, say, I don't know, monumental size, and see, wow, that would be kind of cool as an object, monumental size in front of an office building, for instance, if I was designing something that was going to be large format. And that gives you some ideas there. Now I bring it back in. I just kind of squeeze the controllers together. I can grab the object and make it big in front of me if I wanted to. If I want to go back and do what I did before, I hit the reverse button, kind of go back in time a little bit is what it does. And now I've got rid of that, almost got rid of that funky little area that I pulled out. There, now I got rid of it. So that's kind of how this works with, for instance, a stroke. But now I got a different tool. Say I want to do a form or a volume. I grab the volume button, and I can, same thing, I can grab different sizes of the stroke, and then I can take and create an object in space by pulling my trigger. Now the difference with this one is it's actually creating a form. You can see here it's three-dimensional form, but now I can go back in and grab it, edit it, and pull these points out and give myself some really, different edges, etc. I'm going to rotate it around where I can see it better. And now I come over here. If I want to put a point there, I can put a point and I can pull that point out, give myself some cool, edges, whatever. There's just tons of options. That's what I really like about this whole area, is being able to grab it and edit any point that I want. I'm not nearly good at this, so I'm just now kind of getting my feet under me as far as what all the tools can do. There's so much in here that I have not even found or explored yet. So that's kind of the cool part is there's a lot of stuff, that's coming that I haven't even got to. I'm going to get rid of that little doojigger there. But you can see here, now this piece is massive compared to the one we started with, and I can blow him back up. I can also get rid of that, duplicate it if I wanted to for whatever reason. Oh, that's something new. Now I'm going to increase the sphere, grab it, and then just delete and get rid of those out of the way. But you can see here, this can get, again, I can push this thing out in the middle of the room, and I can grab it. Here, I'm going to grab it and rotate it, and then push that out and make it really, really big in the space. Put it on the floor, for instance. Let's see if I can set it down. Close enough to the floor anyway. Every time there you go. Now it's on the floor. Just ideas like that, guys. It's a really cool way to figure out something in space. What am I trying to create? I want to give myself some power to, edit this thing. So I grab all kinds of lines and edges and forms and buttons, and I love the fact that I can just grab it, rotate it. Oh yeah, cool. There's a little spot that I need to, work on. So I'm gonna, grab the edit button, grab some of these points and push them. You can push them back, get rid of those little ridges and stuff. So that's kind of what we're thinking about here when we say three-dimensional design. Now what I want to do, I want to get out of this program here. So I go back to here.
Nope, there's 1,000. Any color you want. I'm going to go ahead and see. Here's my space station that I kind of inherited. And I'll pause it right there. No, any color, any like reflectivity. So I've created some pieces, and I'll show you in a minute. In a reflective material, you can do a clay material, you can do white, black, any color along the spectrum. Yes, ma'am. Now, Kreger did the infinity. You talking about the figure eight? Oh, yes, that piece I did, yes. No, I wish I'd have had this. Because that piece, it's a struggle to see the three-dimensional Mobius strip, which is what that is a Mobius. And it's very hard to get it in your head. But when you can go in here and design it and create, now I could go get it printed in a three-dimensional model. Then I can use the model and say, oh, okay, I can see what I need to do. And you can do it in marble, and I do it all the time, but it's just not as easy. And this is just a different way to kind of approach that. But any color, any shape you want to create, it's crazy how many. And I just did some simple pull form, but I've worked in there, and you can spend an hour, you can really make something cool. So what I'm going to toggle back over to is here. Let me. Do we see? Okay. So what I did is I went into that program, created a small three-dimensional model that I really liked, and then I went and had it. This is the model I created in space, and I put a shiny reflective. I called it Blue Abstract, was kind of the first title. I had a three-dimensional little model that's about that big, okay? So it's not big. You can get it bigger. The person that did this for me was doing it real quick and free at University of Tennessee. She's an engineering student. She goes, oh, I can 3D print that for you. I was like, yes. So she went and printed it, and it's just made out of a PLA as a plastic. It's just a real cheap way to print it. But you'll see on the piece, I'm going to pass it around. It's got ridges on the piece, and you'll see where it was layered and layered and layered and layered. It took 2 hours to make the piece, and then the plastic is hot when it gets layered out, but then it cools and sets. So then I made the three-dimensional model, and that's what this guy is here, if you want to pass that around. And then I said, well, I really want to see that in marble. So then I took and I'll put this there. So I did this by eyeball, but you could also go send it to a robotic factory and have that printed from that file. But if you look, it's not going to be exact, but it gave me a real good idea of what I wanted to capture. Once I really liked that piece in space and I designed it, then I said, I want to see how that looks in marble after I did this. And this gave me a great reference. I laid this on my table the whole time, and I'm eyeballing that while I'm carving this, and I'm transferring just dimensions back and forth. Now, like I said, it's by eyeball. I think it's pretty darn close, but, I made some design modifications based on, I didn't, there was a little piece on there. I was like, yeah, I'd like to change that out a little bit. So, yes, ma'am. Yeah, with marble, it's all about, it's a stone. It's a very difficult process to, get stone to remove. So with diamond blades, angle grinder, making cuts, pneumatic air chiseling equipment, heavy-duty grinding stones that will grind away material, and then a lot of after that is finishing. Files, rifflers, sandpaper, and getting it smooth to... Now this one, I only did 80 grit on here. I didn't have time to really go in and do it really glassy. But what I wanted to do is just get it to the form that I wanted. I can polish this out in a few hours. But yeah, it's a lot of equipment to get to that point. Yes, ma'am. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That piece, it ended up, it's about 80 pounds now, mostly air. But when it started, the block itself, in order for me to get that dimension, I think it was around 350 pounds of marble. It was a big boulder. And I took a lot off of it to get the dimension I needed. And this was, same thing. This was a pretty decent sized piece here to get to that. Because sometimes you have to kind of, get rid of some waste factor. There's some cracks or whatever. You got to get to the good part in the middle sometimes. But yeah, that was a heavy piece. Man. It's magical. And I'm not kidding. It has translucence, which is really part of the beauty of it is if you can create a piece that has a certain thickness or thinness to it, you can see light through it. It's gorgeous. It has this translucent quality. The other thing, it's very, very carvable. And when you talk to carvers, we like resistance, but you don't want granite. I don't want granite. There's crazy people that do granite. I don't do granite. But you don't want it so hard that it's a struggle. This is very carvable. It's almost like when you find the right piece, it's butter. It's kind of, with your pneumatic chisel, you can tell how easy it is to carve. So that's one reason. And I was explaining earlier, it has very, very fine crystalline structure. The crystals in the Silicaga marble are like confectionery sugar-sized crystals. Some other marble, like a Georgia marble, will have a rock salt-sized crystal. So it's a different detail that you can get. So I don't know if you can see some of these edges and lines. In order to get that really, really sharp edge or a really pretty line that you like, this marble can accomplish that really easily. And there's a lot of marbles that do, but this one particularly I like. And if you want to do details, we have some guys, and if you get over to the Bluebell Park where we're carving, some of these guys are doing details that you can't even believe, and they couldn't do that if it wasn't this kind of marble that can really take the detail without breaking apart. So those really tiny crystals help, and that's what's different to me about the Silicaga marble. Any other questions? I know that, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it varies, and different sculptors have the various ways to do it, but sometimes for me, I'll look at a piece of stone and I go, I know exactly what's in there. I know what I'm going to do. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll create something and then I'll transpose that I'll find a block that it'll fit in. It's weird because I know some carvers that they look at a piece and they go, oh yeah, that's going to be an owl and it's sitting on a branch, and they can see that. And I do that sometimes too, but more often than not, I kind of have ideas and I transpose them into a block. But it varies sculptor to sculptor. Sometimes a boulder is a really cool shape and it tells you what it's going to be. I'm working on a piece over here now. The stone had a little bit of a bend, just a natural angle to it, and I saw a mermaid immediately, and I was like, I'm going to do a mermaid, because it had a little bit of a cockeyed angle to it, and I could see her tail, and I could see her, leaning back. So, but yeah, great question. Anybody else? I don't even know what it is actually right now. Sometimes it's by the, like in Tennessee, it's by the cubic foot. They'll say, okay, a cubic foot of marble is X dollars. Here, if you get it dimensionally cut, because if they have to go through and actually create a cut block for you, that's more expensive. If you just go get a boulder that's laying out there, sometimes it's, they'll say it's 85 cents a pound or $1.15 a pound. It's cheap, but when you get 500 pounds, it's not cheap. So that's where it starts to add up, right? But stone, more often than not, the cost of stone is associated with the freight or the labor to get it to the size you want it and that kind of thing. The stone itself, sometimes it's just a matter of getting to the right, the right way. And I'm a hoarder, so I scrounge is what I do. I find really cool blocks and maybe it came out of an old building. Like in Knoxville, there's a lot of these buildings that they'll get torn down, and there's a great set of steps that were made out of Tennessee pink marble for, 100 years ago. And I'm like, what are you going to do with that? I talked to the demo guy, and he goes, oh, we're just going to scrap it. I'm like, time out. Can we reuse that? Can we make that into something cool instead of throwing it away? So I've found that I can scrounge like that a lot of times, and you can find blocks like that. Yeah. I've worked alabaster. Yeah, alabaster is a soft version. It's a softer stone. And alabaster has not gone through the heat and compression that marble experienced in order to create the crystallization structure. So alabaster is very soft. It's a sedimentary type of stone, but it's a lot easier to carve. And you saw some pieces over here. There was some orange alabaster from Utah and beautiful stuff. And alabaster can come in a billion different flavors. I mean, there's literally, I've seen every color you can think of in alabaster. But it is softer, and it has not gone through the heat and compression over the millions of years is what created marble. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. So mostly what's here is the white marble, and it more popular is that have a little bit of a blue or gray streak through it. And I've been told by geologists that's called biotite, I think is what it is. And I'm not sure if that's right or not. But there's a vein that was not pure calcium. When you see the pure white, that's just pure calcium carbonate. And then the other stuff is just minerals that got in between the layers. And that's what gives marble, I think. I look at a piece of marble, and if it's pure white, I'm like, okay. But if it's got some really cool character with some veining through it, that's what you're after. But different, the marble here, there are some pinks in the white. There's some rose quartz that shows up sometimes, and you'll open up a block and you're like, oh my gosh, I got a really cool pink blush to it. In fact, I've got a heart in one of the rooms up here. And it's called, I think it's called blushing heart. And it had some pink that showed up in it, and it's a rose quartz. There's also some really deep green stuff that'll show up in there, and it's just a different mineral is what happens to that, yeah. Anybody else, ma'am? Oh. Which one? Right here. Yeah, this is right here. Yeah. So the one on the right, yeah. I set it up on a rock and took a picture of it, and I did this one too, the little model. They look the same size, they're not. I zoomed in really tight on the small one. But I wanted to kind of show the progression of that. But yeah, this piece literally, I don't know, 25 pounds or something. So it's a nice little way to capture that. And I don't know, like I said, there's going to be sculptors that say, no, just give me a rock, I'm going to direct carve it. And I do that all the time too. But I just wanted to expose the group to, hey, there's something different out there. that you can take and create something cool. And I also had this architect told me I can take that digital file I created, my own personal file, and sell that as what's called an NFT, a non-fungible token. And it's a one-of-a-kind. It's the very first of its own, it's ever been created. And I could sell that as art if I wanted to. I don't know how to do that, but he said that's becoming a thing. And there's artists out there that are creating some digital things, and you can create that and sell that as art too. So I don't know. Maybe, if it's cool enough and somebody says, hey, I want to buy that, then that's cool too. But it's in my case, it's a three-dimensional object that I've created. So, and I've done some other things just playing around. Haven't really explored it fully yet, but I'm having a feeling like I really like that because I did this piece in about literally 20 minutes, just kind of messing around, and I got it to the shape I wanted, and I go, that looks cool. I think I'm going to go 3D print it, and I think I'm going to make that in marble. So the marble took me 3 hours to make, and the 3D print took 2 hours. So, but I did it really, really. Once I have a model like that, I can really go quick, because I know exactly what I'm creating. Yes, ma'am. So a lot of it is angle. We use a real powerful angle grinder that has a diamond blade on it, and that diamond blade can make deep cuts, and then you knock off the waste. So I came in here, and I made my deep cuts here, and just knocked off until I got the waste removed. Then I start coming in with pneumatic air chisels, and I chisel away till I get down to the surfaces that I want. And then as we move, we get refined, more finer tools. I get down to where I hand file a lot too. To create these edges and the lines that I like, to see the certain curves, I use a hand file a lot because it really gives me control. Power tools are great. Power tools are a really fast way to make a big mistake though. Hand tools are a really slow way to make a really small mistake. So anytime I can use hand tools, I jump to the hand tools if I can. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry. Go look by the railroad. Go look by the railroad tracks out here. There's a mountain of marble chips where we have carved for 10 days now or 9 days or whatever it is. It can be, it sounds wasteful. It's to get to the form, yeah, sometimes you have to, get rid of a lot of that. Because this block was literally probably that big, right? So I got rid of quite a bit.
It looks too big, but you were talking about your infinity.
Yeah, 350 pounds, yeah. 80 pounds. It was actually, the block was probably, if I remember right, this has been several years, so probably that long, and it was probably that deep. In order to get the thickness that I was thinking in my head when I created that, I wanted to have, you had to have 3 dimensions, right? Sometimes you just, and when you do 3 dimensions of marble, it gets really heavy. But we do end up wasting some of it. I have a place real close to my studio. It's a waste waste facility. And I take about 5 or 6 5-gallon buckets of marble chips about once a month. I take that many buckets to the place and then dump those there. It's part of the game. Some people, you can use some of the big chunks that you knock off, and I have done that. Like if I had this piece and I had a big piece come off, I'm like, okay, I'll save that, and maybe I can make something out of it. But most of the time, it's little dust. It's dust and it's chips, mostly, so. Yeah, sometimes like Kreger will use, those little hearts. You can save a lot of the little pieces and make small stuff like the hearts, and that's a great use for them. You can turn them into something cool. So, yes, ma'am. I had a sculpting class at UT when I was I had a theater program, but I needed an elective, and I go, oh, look, it's, sculpting class. And I fell in love with the idea of sculpting. We didn't have stone in that class. We had clay and some other things. Later on in life is when I found stone, and I've always whittled and wood carved and made sculpture, but I just felt like it's a creative outlet, right? And I have to make stuff. I don't care if it's furniture, it's marble, it's wood, I don't know. I have to make stuff. It's just part of my DNA. And if I'm not making stuff, I get kind of cranky, so my wife will go, don't you need to go to the studio or something? You're kind of getting on my nerves here. So I'm like, yeah, you're right. I need to go do that. Yeah. My dad is an artist, yeah. He's a pyrographer, which is a wood-burning. And he wood burns image, beautiful stuff on planks of wood, and then he oil colors that, which is gorgeous. He's still doing that at 75. He's still cranking them out. So, but he's always done that. And then all of my kids are all artistic in their own way. Yeah. So it's been kind of a thing. Yeah, I think through the family. Yes, ma'am. Uh-huh. It's I don't know if it goes back into the landfill. I think that's where most of that stuff there at that particular. Yeah, there's probably you could take and probably get it ground up and but with me, I mean I'm not like a marble quarry. Like the quarry, I'm sure they take and grind it up and make slurry and use it for industrial uses. For me, it ends up just being kind of a sweep it up and get it get it out of the studio, and they can probably grind it up and use it.
I've got another question. All right, let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
This is made from, the marble came from aquatic animals,
Mm-hmm.
is that right?
Yep.
Explain how deep the ocean was here at one time supposedly, and
That's a great question. I'm not even sure. I know the bed of marble here, and he may know, but it is little crustaceans that were deposited over millions and millions and millions of years and layered up, and that heat and compression turned it into marble. But I've found a lot of fossils not in Alabama marble as much because it's so crisp, but in Tennessee marble, I've found a ton of really cool. You'll cut something and you'll polish it and you'll like, oh, look at that, and it's a spiral seashell or it's some kind of really cool fossil that ended up in that. Especially with the black imperial, Josh, I've found a lot of fossils, and Tennessee has a black marble called imperial, and in there, I mean, I'll find all kinds of little crazy little critters that you can, once you polish it up, you can see. And different marbles, that's what you'll see. Sometimes in limestone, you'll find a really cool, fossil in there as well. Yes, question over here? No? Yes, sir.
Can you make an artificial slurry and pour the calcium carbonate into a marble shape?
Oh, so create a slurry with the dust.
You can carve cement.
Yeah, you could probably and I think they do this when they do cultured marble. They take a marble slurry, but they use it with a resin of some kind, and they bind and create you've seen the countertops in the bathroom that are cultured marble. I believe that's how it's done, but I don't know if you could do it with just water because I think it would not hold together. That's why the resin would keep it together, I think. I don't know. I'm not real knowledgeable on that particular subject, but yes, ma'am. I'm going to get it wrong, but it's something like 300 miles long, mile and a half deep, and 30 miles wide. Does anybody here know that? Because Tara or Ted, the marble quarry, the bed is like, isn't it 300 miles long? No, 30 miles long. 30 miles long. Okay. Okay. I knew I got it wrong, but it's a butt ton. How about that? It's a lot of marble. In that amount of dimension, that's marble forever. I mean, literally, it's marble forever because it's 30 miles long. That's a lot. Yeah. So anyway, sorry. I knew I'd get it wrong. I've heard it 14 times, but hopefully this gives you guys it's kind of just an insight into something different, something new, and it's a different way to get from point A to point B, which is kind of a done marble piece. I could have created this just without that. I don't know. This may not have come out of my head like it came out of my head when I got into the 3D design. And I apologize, we couldn't do a live VR. We did it Monday, it worked great. We did it this morning, it worked great. And then when I went to fire it up, it didn't work. But that's why I did a little video, so you could see kind of, when I go in with these actually turn into my hands. So I take, and all the different controls, you can see your hands in space, so you can take and create those loops that you saw. You can create big forms and different objects, and it's just a really different way. And what's nice about it for me is it's super, super quick. I can go in and design something in a few minutes and capture an idea, and then I can save it as a file and later 3D print it and that kind of thing. And that 3D print, did everybody get to see that as it went around? Okay. Yeah, it's just, like I said, I could have maybe done that in an aluminum. I want to try that out and see. I mean, it's a little more expensive because they print it with some hot aluminum alloy or whatever, but I'd like to see how that would look in a different material, because that would be cool if it looked like, this in a shiny steel or aluminum or something like that. So hopefully, guys, hopefully that you got a lot out of it, and if you have any more questions, let me know. I'll kind of be around, and we'll be glad to answer anything we can. In Knoxville. Yeah, I'm out of Knoxville, yeah. So I got one grad student, just yay, she's graduating in May, and I got 2 more right behind her. But one of them's going to Auburn, so my youngest, she's decided on Auburn. So I'll be sending checks down here pretty soon. I gotta sell a lot more marble, I guess, to pay for that one. So, but we appreciate y'all's time, and hopefully you get to see the room over here with the finished pieces. Get over to Bluebell Park and see this. All the sculptors that are, I think there's still quite a few of us. We'll probably be back over there carving after a while, so you can get a little bit out of that, okay? Thank you. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.